think. I think we're back. Let me make sure. All right. So apologies to everybody on Twitch. Apparently Twitch never lost us because Twitch is not fucking stupid like that. But apologies to everybody on the YouTube side of things. Apparently this video doesn't get to have an intro because the music from our friend's band that we have explicit permission from them to use, YouTube's AI algorithm tracking shit caught live and flagged as someone else's content, which it absolutely is not. We've been literally using it for years with permission from the band. That's literally in the disclaimer and all the descriptions. There's a fucking literal disclaimer on the beginning opening scene of the video itself, every video on this channel. So that's fucking infuriating. And of course, because it closed the other tab, I can't even drop the new link into the old chat. So that's extremely fucking frustrating. This video is probably going to get like 3 fucking views now. God damn it. Oh well, fuck them. We're doing it anyway. We're doing it live because that's how we fucking do it. So yeah, everybody's here, everybody's hired, everybody's done with YouTube's bullshit, but it is the I'm No Joe podcast, and we are here once again to talk to you fine folks about UFC Vancouver. So first and foremost, with all of the bullshit out of the way, we will officially start things off here the way that we like to, with a little bit of news and recent events, fight confirmations, fight cancellations, rumor confirmations or official denials, things of that nature. All the relevant fun fuckery that came down the MMA pipeline since we talked to you fine folks a week ago. So first and foremost, we do actually have to start by going back to last weekend to start our news segment this week, but for a good reason, for a fucking change. Because Charles Oliveira did what Charles Oliveira fucking does and looked like an absolute fucking world beater last weekend, and then respectfully got on the microphone and called for Max Holloway for a BMF match. Awesome. I think that's a fucking spectacular match. I think it's great if they're going to keep the BMF going and they're going to keep doing it at 55. Chucky Olives and the blessed one himself make a great fucking pairing, in my opinion. And Max Holloway watched that shit live and he said, you know what? We're going to fucking do it. He said February, March, both look good somewhere in that time frame. We'll talk to the UFC. We'll see what they've got in mind and let's make it fucking happen. So it looks like we might have our next BMF match, built before our very eyes. If they're going to keep this fucking thing going, it needs to be relevant fucking fights. And this is about as relevant as a BMF match can get, in my opinion. So I generally don't like the BMF belt being on the line anywhere because it's another quote unquote fake belt, while Dana won't make other real belts for divisions that need to be there. But if they're going to keep it around, let's keep it fucking busy. Let's not let it catch fucking dust. And this is a great fucking matchup, in my opinion, for it. So I'm absolutely fucking down for that. So is Max. So we've got ourselves a potential next BMF matchup early 2026, and I'm fucking here for that. That being said, we got a little bit of controversy, I will say. When Rainier de Ritter fought in California, because California State Athletic Commission discloses all information on fighters' weight and pay and all of that good stuff, we found out that Rainier de Ritter gained 27.5 pounds back between stepping on the scale Friday and stepping into the cage on Saturday. Nobody really seemed to take that into consideration until day before yesterday, when Rainier de Ritter showed up in Vancouver and then posted a picture to his Instagram stories of him standing on a scale at 220 pounds, getting ready to fight at 185 on Saturday. That's a big cut. He's walking around like a medium-sized heavyweight right now, and in the process of less than a week is going to cut or attempt to cut back down to a fucking middleweight, literally cutting down a weight class and a half. And not just that, but the biggest weight class there is, and then another weight class down below that. So I'm very curious to see what RDR is going to look like on the scale tomorrow. To be fair, he is a professional. He's been doing this for a long time. He's been making middleweight for a long time. So he knows his body pretty fucking well. I'm not sure if this is how he cuts it every time. I'm not the most familiar with his weight cutting process individually, but if this is how he does it every goddamn time, we need to get that man to pay a little more attention to the UFC PI so they can get him a weight plan and get him a supplement plan and dial that weight cut a little bit further out so it's easier on his body. So we've got a little bit more time so he'll be able to take fights a little bit better in general. But it's a little bit concerning to see a guy coming into a fight potentially about to cut 35 fucking pounds in 3 days, 4 days. So it's going to be interesting to see what the scale tells us tomorrow, but the scale will tell us, pretty much everything we need to know once we get there tomorrow. That being said, we got official confirmation directly from the UFC today that next weekend in Abu Dhabi for UFC 321, Laura Senko will officially be stepping in to take Joe Rogan's place because, as you know, if you've been paying attention, Joe Rogan doesn't do any shows that are not pay-per-views in the United States anymore. So we get other teams when we go across the pond for pay-per-views, and especially when we're going all the way to Abu Dhabi, Rogan doesn't go there for anything at this point. So we are going to have Laura Sanko and DC and I believe John Anik as well. And I believe they said that there are going to be some other behind the scenes people doing interviews normally, but this is going to be Laura Sanko's official second time sitting full on the big boy desk doing the full broadcast. And I think it's long fucking overdue. She does a lot better job than a lot of the other people that they let do it right now. Couple of matchups here to talk about real quick. Next week, UFC 321 from Abu Dhabi got an interesting one added to it here. After Mohammed Usman fell out, we now got Walter Walker getting moved up to next weekend to take on Louis Sutherland in Abu Dhabi. That one should be a fight. But then for next month's pay-per-view for UFC 322, November 15th, we got word this afternoon that Sari Saidi just and found a last-minute replacement literally right after they announced that Saidi had injured his shoulder. Within, I think, an hour and a half or 2 hours of him announcing that he was injured and out, they announced that Cody Haddon is going to be stepping in to take on Malcolm Wellmaker so they can keep him on that MSG card next month. Another one of those, not quite the original fight, but could still be very, very interesting as well. Vegas, December 6th for UFC 323, the final pay-per-view of the year and potentially the final pay-per-view ever for the UFC, depending on how this Paramount broadcast deal plays out next year. This could literally be the final pay-per-view ever. We found out a lot of the cast for this final pay-per-view. We found out that Brandon Moreno will be taking on Tatsuro Taira at UFC 323, which is a fucking spectacular matchup and could mean big things either way. And then we got the main and co-main event for the final pay-per-view of the year. The co-main event will be Alexandre Pantoja putting the flyweight belt on the line against none other than Joshua Van, which is a fucking spectacular fight in my opinion. And then in the main event, the man who literally found out while he was live on a podcast, Merab Dvalishvili, tries to make history being the only person in the UFC to ever defend a title 4 times in a calendar year. Merab will main event the final UFC pay-per-view of 2025 and potentially the final UFC pay-per-view ever, defending his 135-pound belt and setting a record for most title defenses of any weight class in the UFC in a single calendar year. They are definitely stacking this final pay-per-view up with all of the goodness that they can. All of the good fights that they can. And I'm fucking here for it. There's been some rumors about some things they're trying to do for the first big cards on Paramount once the next year gets here, but we've still got a couple more months before we get to that point. So let's focus on what we've got right ahead of us first. And this is exactly what they're doing. Good job on that one, UFC. That being said, November 14th in Miami, we have got official confirmation. The UFC X duo at this point will now close out their trilogy in Miami with a set of big puffy gloves. That's right. Anderson, the Spider Silva, and Chris Weidman are now booked for a third match down in Miami. They are going to do a boxing match this time. I think that is probably best for the legs on both sides of that match. But it is going to be interesting considering that, technically speaking, both men are retired now, but Anderson Silva has still been boxing almost the whole time he quote unquote retired from MMA. So we'll see what Weidman's really got left in the tank here, because Anderson just knocked Tito out cold a couple of years ago in the boxing ring in the first round. So Anderson's very clearly still got it. We'll see what Chris has still got in his tank when we get there. A couple of non-fight announcements here real quick to get through. The first one, I'm going to raise my hand here and I'm going to be 100% honest. I thought genuinely that the story was bullshit and that it was just being used for attention when it first came out. But it turns out I and everyone else who had that opinion were 100% wrong, because Jorge Masvidal was officially granted a $5 million settlement against Fan Mio for non-payment of his boxing match against Nate Diaz. They really did not pay him, and he really did take him to court, and the court verified it, and now they owe him legally $5 million that they were supposed to pay him initially. Jorge actually was telling the truth for once. They really did try to fuck him like that. Good on Jorge. He's going to get his fucking money, as he should. Fuck Fan Mio for trying to pull that bullshit. That's dirty as shit. That being said, speaking of that's dirty as shit, we got word directly from the horse's mouth this week that Frankie Edgar kind of got fucked over by BKFC when they came to New Jersey a couple weeks ago. They very much billed that card as A, Jeremy Stevens versus Mike Perry at the head of it, but B, the unretirement of Frankie Edgar versus Jimmy Rivera in that co-main event. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, just before Frankie Edgar versus Jimmy Rivera was pulled off the card, we had no word about what it was. They just said that it was a medical issue. Well, we got Frankie's side of the story now. Frankie turned in all his medical paperwork. Frankie went and did all the tests they asked him to do. He did all the media appearances they asked him to do. And then they never sent his fucking medical paperwork to the athletic commission, because Frankie contacted the athletic commission himself. And they said, we don't have any of your paperwork from them. So Frankie turned his own paperwork in to the athletic commission, by which point they had already pulled him from the card officially. Not a good look. Frankie has no concrete anything as to why they did this or what their end goal was, but he did all of the media obligations, and then they apparently just gave him some money for his appearances since they didn't allow him to fight. But BKFC is still trying to say that it was a medical issue that prevented Frankie Edgar from fighting, and Frankie Edgar is literally holding all the receipts saying, I did all my tests and every doctor said I am good to go, so much so that I am now officially cleared going forward if I decide that I want to compete either in bare knuckle or any combat sports. I'm already medically cleared in advance. So definitely not a good look for BKFC, which has been having a lot of issues similar to that lately. We'll see how this one plays out. Frankie said he doesn't have any desire to get back in there and fight, that literally this was the one that they had pursued him and offered him multiple times, and he had turned them down multiple times until he finally gave them what he said was a ridiculous number to shut them up and get them to go away. And then they came back and agreed to the ridiculous number, at which point Frankie said, well, then fuck it, we ride, and got into official full-on fucking fight training camp again, went through all his fucking medicals, cleared all his fucking tests, was ready to fucking go, and was ready to unretire. And then all of a sudden they just told him that there was a medical issue and he wasn't fighting anymore. Well, Frankie's clearly not fucking happy about it. So I'm very curious to see how this one plays out going forward and see what David Feldman and BKFC's justification for this is now that Frankie's not going to sit back and be quiet. Of all people, Frankie's not going to sit back and fucking be quiet about this. So I'm sure we'll hear what actually comes about of it once something actually comes about of it. That being said, every couple of weeks we get an update from the bot that watches the UFC roster, literally called UFC roster bot. The roster watch account watches the roster bot. That's a fucking tongue twister. When the UFC either releases or decides not to renew a fighter after they have fought off their last contracted fight, they are generally let go. And the roster bot is usually the first one to catch those names. We get them every couple of weeks. This week, we only have 4 names, but the ironic part is that all 4 of them have recently either fought or been in the news for one reason or another. To the surprise of very few, Andre Muniz, Justin Tafa, Brogan Walker, Irina Alexieva. Every one of those names kind of makes sense given the last couple of weeks of fights and the last couple of weeks of news. Again, these are all situations where the UFC could opt to re-sign any one of them, but as of right now, all 4 of those athletes are no longer on the UFC's roster. That being said, that is what I have got for news this week. Either one of you gentlemen have anything that I might have missed this week? Alrighty. Well, in that case, then, that will bring us to the point where if you've been watching combat sports as long as some of us have been watching combat sports, you start to learn what you like to watch and when it comes on and how you go about watching it. And you start to develop habits and you can develop a set of blinders, if you will, and start to lose the forest for the trees. Luckily for us here on the show, we've got ourselves a bona fide young person that's out there ever so delicately and ever so diligently fingering the pulse of the MMA world to help keep us abreast of all the names that are going to be names before they are names in a little segment that we call Slows, Cans, and Contenders.
Appreciate you, brother. So we had the final week of the Contender Series this week. Had a couple of okay spots. Young kid. Oh, what was his name? Rahiki or whatnot. Came out on a win. Got knocked down like 3 times in the first round. Then the second round comes back, gets himself a knockout. That was impressive. And then there was another kid, I think, named Juan Diaz. Got a sick ass spinning elbow. You know, those Koreans and them elbows. I don't know what's up with it. Even Dana White said it. It was kind of funny. Yeah, so we had a couple of exciting moments.
I will say that spinning elbow moment has created more controversy online than anything that I have seen in the entire rest, at least of this season of the Contender Series so far. Not because of the elbow itself, which to his credit was fucking spectacularly done. That shit was beautiful. But because of the clip of them sitting at the table and Sean Shelby looking like an absolute fucking murderer, completely fucking emotionless, while Mick Maynard rather, while Sean Shelby and Dana White are losing their shit. He literally doesn't fucking blink. He stays complete stone-faced monotone, and he's just like, if he dies, he dies. That's some cold-blooded shit. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
he's a creepy looking motherfucker. Throw that out there. But yeah, I hadn't heard or seen any of that shit, so that is hilarious. But yeah, in all, the last couple of weeks were exciting. Other than that, really, it was just slightly a throwaway. They talked about they gave away more contracts this season than the past couple seasons and shit like that. So maybe just an example that they're getting happy with it. The last couple of weeks, we've had a couple decent fights, but I think we also did get the news that The Contender Series is going to Paramount next year, so we figured everything is going to be kind of packaged together since they signed that deal with Paramount. We'll see how it goes next year. And the Contender Series has become more exciting than the Ultimate Fighter, and it's only because of that thing. I get live fights extra in the middle of the week. Like it's just not. It's the perfect handful. You know, most of the time it's amateur kids, but at the end of the day, you still get some fights and thrown in the middle of the week on a Tuesday night. So that's just cool. It's kind of like how football has continued to try to interject itself as much as it can throughout the week. They started off this year with a fucking Friday night football game with the Chiefs. So they had Thursday, then Friday. You know, next they're going to just have a whole fucking weekend. They'll have a Thursday game, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they got the Monday. They just keep on going, man. I mean, why not fights do the same? But as for this weekend, I feel like the card as a whole is really rough. There's a lot more cans that I have on my list here than contenders. I really have like this much. I got a few contenders. I got some can tenders, some people that can swing back around potentially, but we'll start with taking out the trash. We've talked about a few of these guys multiple times. Kyle Nelson, Charles Jourdain, uh, they're fighting each other, aren't they? No, 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 no. Jourdain's fighting Davy Grant. Um, both of them suck ass, though. In all honesty, both of them, like Kyle Nelson had a little winning streak there, but it was all by decision. I think Matt Frivola has a serious chance. He's taking a good bit of time off after getting knocked the fuck out again, which is probably good for him. I feel like he's got a really good chance in this fight to get his own knockout, to have his own decent moment. A hell of a lot better chance than Kyle Nelson, anyways. But you throw Jourdain and Kyle Nelson in the trash. Jourdain, he's shown he can take an ass whooping, but I don't think that gets you very far. The Kyle Prepelec kid, I'm surprised that he even got another chance. I call him a kid, but I'm a kid compared to him. He's 30 fucking 6. He's a middle of the pack, back and forth motherfucker throughout his career in the regional scene. He really got thrown in there because they needed a guy to fight Benoit Saint Denis last minute. He gets his ass whooped like he was supposed to, and they throw him another bone for some reason. I think he's going to get his ass whooped again because I say they're throwing him a bone, but the bone is fucking Drew Dober. That's not much of a bone. No, he's going to get boned. It's not going to be very pleasant either. They're going to be in front of his home crowd now. To Jordan Santos, another one who I know all he had was his debut, but it's still questionable why he's getting another go at it. He got his ass whooped by Ozzy Diaz. And we're talking about another serious fucking can there. It's questionable shit. Um, the Cody Gibson and Ori Quilang fight. I like Ori Quilang. He's a tough little Asian man. He's been in some interesting fights, but he's also kind of a journeyman fighter. So I can't say that Ori Quilang is anything worth a can tender, right? Um, but Gibson, he's proved once before he didn't deserve to be in the UFC. And then they gave him the second shot with that weird ass Ultimate Fighter season with Connor and Chandler and all the veterans, right? And he loses. And for whatever reason, that fucking season they gave not just the two winners, but the two losers of the finals contracts too. And this motherfucker was one of them. He didn't win. Cody Gibson fucking lost, and he's been in the UFC now for I think this is almost 2 years since that shit, and he's been getting his ass whooped again. He's overall 3-6 throughout his two bouts in the UFC, and none of it's getting any better. I feel like little Asian man's going to give him a nice proper ass whooping once again, and it, as a whole, it's just not a fight worth watching. And I also got one of the ladies' fights, man, maybe you could throw both of the ladies' fights in there, but Stephanie Luciano, Ravino, Oliveira, maybe it'll be more interesting. It's two young ladies, at least they're more spry. Uh, Melissa Croden, though, and Tainara Lisboa, that's two middle aged ladies that have had very few professional fights, and I feel like that is going to be an absolute snooze fest. It is not one of those interesting bantamweight week. Like, she put an ass whooping down, and even though she's middle aged, it's like, might have some hope there. Maybe she fought a can, but it was at least nice to see a can of ass whooping get opened. I don't see any of that getting opened with these ladies. I also had to do it. I don't necessarily want to do it with these two, but at the end of the day, they've proven it. They've had multiple opportunities. Brendan Allen and Kevin Holland proven that I still feel like they're maybe worth being in the UFC, but to have a real run at anything again, I don't see it happening. Now, Brendan Allen's got an opportunity here this weekend, but I don't. I think he'd have to get lucky. I mean, Rainier is really good with his grappling in his own right. I know he came in pretty overweight, so maybe that was him lacking in one way or another. Maybe he's overlooking Brennan Allen, but Brennan Allen has had multiple opportunities already. I think he's shown what he's worth. Even in the big moments that he's had, he wins by a decision. He plays it safe. It's been a really long time since we've seen the kid get an actual finish. I don't necessarily feel like I could throw him in that contender spot. Like, he's got the opportunity. Oh, you win this fight, you technically bounce back in the rankings, but I just don't see it. I mean, with Kevin Holland, it's the same. It doesn't matter whether he sticks at welterweight or middleweight. The kid has always been fun, but he's just proven he's so goddamn hot and cold. When he's good, he's really good, but he runs his mouth a lot, and a lot of the times he's not taking it serious and he's not good. So I had to throw them both in the can this time around. My actual contenders, people I think can bounce back. Cheeto. Man, I got to throw Cheeto in the contender spot at the end of the day because even if he's lost the last couple, he didn't deserve that title shot either. The dude has been one of the toughest guys in that bantamweight division for the last handful of years. He had a hell of a fucking streak there too, where he was knocking out Frankie Edgar, knocking out Dominic Cruz. I mean, at the end of the day, he ended Dominic's career. Because Dom hasn't fought since then. So I know that was technically because he injured his shoulder and shit again, so he called it quits. He was going to fight again, but I think Cheeto could bounce back. Not necessarily that Eamon's hobby is to bounce back towards, being a true contender, but Cheeto's always going to be there, in my opinion. If he fucking gets back on the right ship of things, pulls a winning streak back out of his ass, who knows? Because I don't even think he's fought Marab. I think he might be one of those few dudes that Marab hasn't fought on the way up. So if he can pull a streak out of his ass and Marab keeps on hoisting this fucking crown and sticks around, he might get another crack at it. It's not completely unseen. I also like Hyun Sung Park. I think that that short notice fight that he took against Tatsuro Taira doesn't fully kill his career. He's still pretty young. He's had some good moments since he got in the UFC, and he did get submitted in the second round. But I mean, I feel like if the kid had some better work, better camp, we might have seen a different situation. We'll see. He's got time. He's young, so I feel like he could bounce back. I Mike Malott, that's the best that I can put him in the contender spot as well, because he had the shot already to bounce into the rankings. He lost to Neil Magny, but Neil has continued to show he is a crafty motherfucker. He cannot take him lightly. He just showed us that again against Jake Matthews. Maybe Malott can get himself up there. Kevin Holland's a fun name. That will literally throw him in that opportunity again to crack into the rankings if he beats Kevin Holland, especially if he can find a finish. And Danny Barlow, I've talked up on the kid. since he came from the contender series, but I got to throw him in the contender spot because he's coming off of a knockout loss. Sam Patterson's on a hell of a fucking run. So, it is what it is. You go out there and he does what he tries to do, stand and throw down. That's what this kid from Tennessee wants to do. And he got clipped. The defense wasn't there. We'll see if he can bounce back, work on some things, but that's the best I can do. We might even throw him in the can already, but win in the first couple and then get knocked out. Maybe give him one last chance. But the real couple shining lights, true contender spot in the bantamweight division, I got to be nice to Eamon Zahabi. I don't know if this is the run of magic for him or not, but it could be, right? And it's his only chance. He's got to go out, keep shit going. He beat Jose Aldo. Chito Vera is another tough motherfucker. You do that, then you got to be looked at slightly. There's still a lot of guys ahead of you and tough guys at that he would have to try to get through to ever see some damn title anywhere near his ass. But he's on a decent run. You give, like we always say, respect where it's fucking due. The guy is in the top 10 at this point. You got that opportunity to continue your run. Um, like I said, there's very few shining lights here. So that's the one. Azamat Bakoyev, I feel like this is one of the only other shining lights. Maybe in the future he could be something in that middleweight division. I feel like they're throwing him an easy curveball here. Uh, Fighting Yursi Belgori. I heard some shit that apparently Alex Pereira, like they're talking some shit that Alex Pereira begged for this Belgori guy to get signed to the UFC. I don't know what the fuck that's about, but we'll see if the 29-year-old that's got 16 motherfucking finishes and some knockout power and has gotten 2 knockouts in his first 2 fights. See if he can continue it on. See if he can, do something later on in the future. You got the 2 ladies that I'm excited to see going on towards the end of it. Jasmine Jasnavicius and Manon Fiorot. Manon is known to keep it standing and want to strike, but she has been on a decision streak of hell in her last handful of fights in the UFC. She got her ass whooped by Valentina. I kind of expected that. Um, doesn't mean she won't bounce back and school Jasmine here, but Jasmine's been on a decent run too and had a fantastic fight against Jessica Andrade in her last go. Got the submission against her. It was very impressive. If she can continue that, it really puts her in a nice spot in that flyweight division. There's a couple ladies ahead of her, like Erin Blanchfield, but we'll see. I think the fight as a whole is one of the ones to be more excited for. Just like the Zahabi and Cheeto fight, I think that's an interesting one. We'll see how it goes. See if Cheeto can bounce back. The only other thing I can put a shining light on is Rainier de Ritter himself. Like I said, throwing Brendan Allen in the can Rainier just go out there? Fucking just style on the kid. The kid's had multiple chances to climb up himself. So, like, this is your chance to. You gotta take it serious enough to go out there, style on them, prove everybody, yeah, I'm one of the top guys. I should have been fighting one of these other guys that's at the top. It's really shown he's tough as fuck. Who's beaten Brendan Allen in the past year? Along like Fluffy should have been in this fight. This main event, in my opinion, just absolutely blows. It would have been nice to see anybody else get put in this, like Costa. Like Paulo Costa really should have been the one to be put in this fight if they needed a replacement, because then at least it would have been interesting. It would have been more exciting. Might have been a challenge for Rainier. Um, and I don't know. He's got to come out in style. Rainier's the main event himself. If he does not, man, that's shit. That's just how I feel about this card. Just shit.
Bruh.
There's hopes and dreams this weekend. I can hope and dream that 4 fights on this card are going to be great. That's just the honest truth of it. As much as I always try to put that positive spin, hopefully the fight gods gift us with a handful this weekend. I'd like to hear what you boys gotta say. Probably agree with me at least on that final point, but
I'll keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Good on them for being in Canada and having it mostly Canadians in all, but like I think it's 4 fights. There's a Canadian in almost every fight. Good on them. To be honest, from the opening fight until you get to probably the Hung Seong Park fight, just to see what he is going to do. Nobody gives about a shit about Charles Jourdain except for Canadians. As a whole, that prelims can all go to hell. They can all jump off a fucking cliff. I don't give a shit about any of them. Coming to the main card. Why is Matt Frevola and Kyle Nelson still in the UFC? I'll say it. Nobody else has to. Ricky Lang is hot and cold. And when I say hot, he's lukewarm at best, in my opinion. Cody Gibson is just a soup can that they're throwing to Ricky Lang to get himself back on the win column. The only women's fight that has any bearing on this entire card is Manon Fiorot and Jasmine Judavicius, only because there is title implications specifically for Jasmine, not necessarily for Manon. Even if Manon goes out there and works Jasmine, there's nothing for her out of that. You took on a number 5 ranked Jasmine Judavicius and called it a day. Jasmine, on the other hand, goes out there, puts work in, beats Manon. They're going to give her a title shot because she's slowly been moving her way up the rankings. Not that that says a lot, because the women's flyweight division, in my opinion, really isn't all that fucking deep. I have to agree 100% on Marlon Vera with you. I don't know whether he's coming or going anymore at this point. Back-to-back losses, to be fair, against one that is now about to get a title shot, and the other one, well, fucking he showed up looking like shit. We'll just call it that. And then Eamon Zahabi, I think he might be one of Canada's few last hopes. And I say few very loosely because, to be honest, their last hope really isn't looking that great. Going to the co-main event in Holland and Mike Malott, this is a contender fight to me because this could go very, very fantastically or very, very poorly, depending on how you look at this. Kevin is the definition of a hot and cold fighter, but he's also said it himself. He's not here for a goddamn for anything else other than a bag to take care of his family. That's it. And I'm not mad at him for that. There's a reason why he has so much pull. He's honest. He runs the fucking mic very well. Mike Malott is gonna put up one hell of a fight because every time he fights in Canada, he generally puts on a very good show. I mean, we can go back. You can go back to any fight on the Canada card where he's fought, and he's done fantastically. So, should be an interesting fight. It's all going to depend on which Kevin shows up. So, that's contender fight written all over it for me. Brendan Allen does not deserve to be in the top 10, in my opinion. In middleweight, Renner de Ritter obviously is on a fucking tear, and he's teaching people there are levels to this game. There's nothing more to be said than that, other than Brendan Allen has a very tall task. Renner de Ritter, regardless of fucking weight, is a scary motherfucker. But as a whole, like you said it earlier, this card is just, we're grasping at straws. They really need to cut this down to doing like one show a month and one pay-per-view a month. That's it. We're getting too much garbage. If you want to have all the garbage fights, put them back on Facebook or free on YouTube. Because that's the only reason that I would tune in for the first half of this, is if it was free on Facebook or free on YouTube. I mean, thankfully right now I have ESPN Plus, which, by the way, I will not have for long after this because I don't watch ESPN otherwise. So know that come January, if you are subscribed to ESPN, you will no longer be getting fights. You will have to switch over to Paramount Plus. By the way, Paramount Plus, just as an FYI, I free trialed with them. Their live TV is fucking shit. It is like, you think it's bad on ESPN where you get the bad stoppages. Paramount Plus, way fucking worse. Hopefully, this gigantic deal that they just signed gets them to fix some of their server issues, but I highly fucking doubt it. They're just going to deal with a bunch of pissed off people. All I'm saying is get a hold of Uncle Khabib and he'll tell you where to catch fights.
Yeah, I will say, to be fair, this is still technically a hangover card because we do have a pay-per-view next weekend. So in that sense, this is not the worst card that we could have, because the UFC, especially this year of all fucking years, has delivered some absolutely atrocious hangover cards. We've had some decent ones, but we've had some fucking rough slogs this year, to say the fucking least. That being said, there are still a couple of matches on this card that are very interesting to me. Um, I am not a conventional combat sports fan by any stretch of the imagination. If you watch the show for any amount of time, you've probably gathered that. I am actually probably most curious out of any fight on the entire card about the opening matchup. Melissa Croden versus Tianara Lisboa. Tianara Lisboa at this point is one of the only ladies fighting out of Brazil not training with the Fighting Nerds or with the big Silva Shoot the Box camp. She's kind of off just doing her own thing. I'm curious to see how that's going to work out for her, because so far historically it's not been the greatest. And to their credit, the ladies who've been working with Shoot the Box and the ladies that have been working with the Fighting Nerds have all been seemingly, stepping their levels up slowly but surely. The rest of the ladies who are still out there trying to do their own thing in Brazil, when they have other options now, are starting to kind of fall by the wayside. And I'm curious to see if this is going to be another example of just exactly that. I'm curious to see, because at this point, neither one of these ladies are really doing a whole lot. The difference is that Tianara Lisboa had a better run prior to getting to the UFC than Melissa Cronin did. Not by a whole lot, though. They're literally just 1-1 apart from each other in terms of total experience. So I'm more curious to see if both her and Ravana Oliveira later on, two of the only ladies fighting out of Brazil, not really affiliated with either of the big camps, how are they going to fare here? Because this is going to be very telling. Yes, they're all the way up in Canada and they're fighting, a Canadian in one and then a fellow Brazilian in the other one. But the other Brazilian fucks with Shoot the Box and the other one is a Canadian. So it's interesting for the grand scheme of things in terms of my weird point of view on this one. Other than that, the vast majority of all the prelim fights, I'm willing to bet, are going to be tough slog 15-minute grind fests. There's going to be a lot of wet blanketing in a couple of these. I agree with both of you gentlemen. Hyun Sung Park versus Bruno Silva could be very interesting. Unfortunately for Park, though, the ground game that Silva has shown in the past, maybe not so much his chin, but his ground game, could prove to be very problematic for Park, given what we saw last time he ran into that particular skill set. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see what he's worked on since then. But with Silva, there's a better than not chance that he's going to try to take this to the ground, or at least try to pull some type of submission out of it. To see what Park has really been working on and how much he's really progressed since then will be interesting to me for sure. I'm gonna be 100% here with you, champ. I like Davy Grant as a person. I don't understand why he's still in the UFC. Um, that dude has had more cold moments than hot at this point. He's literally one step from being a 500 fighter. And I honestly can't remember the last time he had like a show-stopping big moment to his credit. If the UFC is supposed to be the top level at this point, it's time to start trimming fat. Like I get the Dana White is, the ultra capitalist and wants to have all the fighters under the UFC roster and then use them when he wants to, but that's just not how this works. That's how we get in the situation we're in now, where we've got too many fucking events and not enough quality in those events. Case in fucking point right here. Same thing, Matt Frivola and Kyle Nelson. TJ already said it. Like, why are we still playing this game? Why are we still tap dancing this fucking tap dance when we can all see the writing on the goddamn wall? Like, they're bringing in more than enough 12 and 12 contender series guys. Why do we still have people that have been doing this for years and failing at it, taking up time on what's essentially a very, very limited amount of space to showcase fighters? If the UFC is supposed to be the top of the heap, it's time to start cleaning house more than just 4 or 5 fighters every couple of weeks. They're bringing in more than enough contender series folks. Keep the top of the fucking crop. Trim some fucking fat here. Hopefully 2026 will bring us things a little bit more streamlined, but we'll see. I agree completely. Arichi Lang versus Cody Gibson could be very, very fun. Arichi Lang might not be the most exciting fighter in the world, but the way that I like to describe him, as I describe several other fighters, is that he is allergic to boring fights. He breaks out in punches, and it's always a good time. Win, lose, or draw. That dude's always fucking entertaining to watch. I appreciate that. Manon versus Jasmine. It's not so much a title eliminator. In my opinion, this is one of those, the winner of this with one more good big win could be in title contention, but this is really to establish the top of the pecking order in terms of the division. This one isn't necessarily for a title shot itself. This is really laying out the pathway to both of them, essentially, for who's got to go through what to get to a title at this point in their careers, especially with, Wei Lee coming up to face Valentina now. Could be real interesting. Could be real interesting going forward. I might be the odd man out here. I honestly give zero shits about the Cheeto versus Amin Zahabi fight. That is honestly probably the least interesting fight, or one of the least interesting fights on this card, in my opinion. And that's not to say that I think it's going to be a bad fight. I don't think it's going to be a bad fight. What I'm saying is that stylistically, this doesn't have a whole lot to offer for me. They're both very similar in terms of their styles, in terms of the way that they throw, in terms of the, I don't want to call it lazy, but like slackish kind of striking style that both of them have. It's not so much that they're hesitant to strike, but they almost strike just before it would be considered a counter. It's a late type of strike, and both of them do it very, very much. And I have a feel like this could be like watching somebody shadow box in a mirror for 15 minutes. Add to that, Cheeto's getting long in the tooth. I love Cheeto, but he's getting a little long in the tooth at this point. And Amin Zahabi honestly was never that good to begin with. Like, the fact that they're giving him someone as highly ranked as Cheeto is honestly a little surprising to me. But I also see this as more of an opportunity for Cheeto than it is for Amin. This is Amin fighting at home, where he's done most of his winning. This is Cheeto. If he goes into enemy territory against the Canadian in Canada and gets a big win, it means more for him than Amin, who is almost exclusively only fought in Canada for the last couple of years. So it's kind of expected for him to get the win when he fights at home. Not that it's not going to be a great fight, but it just doesn't hold a whole lot of excitement for me personally. Co-main event, on the other hand, I think really does say a lot. Much like Amin Zahabi, Mike Malott is on a fucking hot streak at home, but Mike Malott has also done a little bit of winning outside of Canada as well. The difference here is that Kevin Holland is, at this point, the welterweight Derek Lewis. Like, he understands that his title shot is really far off in the distance, but at the same time, every 3 or 4 months, they can find a name for him to get into the octagon, fight good, bad, or otherwise, and make good fucking money doing it. Kevin Holland likes money and he likes fighting. So this is essentially, for lack of a better term, just another fight for Kevin Holland. Whereas Mike Malott, he's kind of, resting his laurels and building his namesake on being the guy that every time you bring him home to Canada, he brings you a finish, not just a win, but a finish. Against Kevin Holland, you better eat your motherfucking Wheaties, Mike. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm saying you better eat your fucking Wheaties, my man. It could be a good fight, could be a rough co-main event leading into an interesting main event. I'll say this about the main. Brandon Allen is going to have an interesting time stepping on the scale with that horseshoe up his ass tomorrow. I don't know how the fuck they threw darts at the wall and landed on Brandon Allen to step in when Fluffy was out of this fight. But here we are. At this point, with what Rainier de Ritter has done just inside of the UFC, Brandon Allen would essentially have to get himself like a 12-second clean Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo style walk-off fucking KO for this fight to really mean anything for him. This is kind of a sacrificial lamb situation here. Like, Brandon Allen is so far outside of the actual conversation for title. He's essentially just another lamb to the slaughter, a body getting tossed to Rainier de Ritter so that we can acknowledge that, yes, he's got several wins under his belt and we can start talking about him in the title conversation officially at this point. I would not be surprised if Brandon Allen gets crazy coming out of the gate, but I don't think he's actually going to be able to get that 12-second knockout that he really would need to take advantage of the situation. I think he's going to come out with a little bit of, unorthodox nonsense, which he is prone to do. And then Rainier de Ritter is going to go, okay, now it's my turn. And then the Dutch Knight is going to turn it on his fucking ass. And we're going to see RDR do RDR things once again in Canada. Not the best main event, in my opinion, not the best replacement for the main event when the original fell out, but it is technically fights to watch this weekend, and it's something to hold us over until we go to Abu Dhabi next weekend for another pair of fucking title fights to round out the pay-per-views for October. So it's fights, boys.
That's a damn good way of putting it. We get some fights, that's for sure. Like I said earlier, hopefully the fight gods grace us a little bit. Appreciate you, boys.
Thank you very much, sir. Always appreciated. So that being said, that'll bring us to the point where we have one segment of the show that does require its own individual disclaimer, if you will. Tapology.com in no way, shape, or form supports, sponsors, or endorses the I'm No Joe podcast. Yet. That being said, they do let you go onto their site, make a free account, and make fantasy-style MMA picks like we do here on the show. They even let you make groups. So we made one. It's called I'm No Bookie, all one word, or Group 965. However you need to find it, the group is open to the public. You are welcome and encouraged. Make yourself an account, join the group, and let us know who the hell you are so we can hold your picks accountable with our picks in a segment that we call Tapology with TJ.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for your viewing pleasure and my need to get the fuck out of here really quick tonight, I'm going to make this very fucking fast because I got to get some sleep. We're hopping right into last week in UFC Fight Night, Oliveira and Gamrot. As we all know, Charlie Olives did what Charlie Olives does last week. Along with that, there were some great scores across the board in our group. The lowest of the low would have been me, of 7 of 12 correct. Still north of the 500, so yeah, I drugged my dick on the ground a little bit, stomped on it a couple of times. But that is what it is. Now, on the opposite side of that, Meter takes it home with 9 of 12 correct. Only a 2-pick difference. So as a whole, everybody else fell somewhere in between. Everyone in our group did fantastic. Like he said, come join. It's fucking free. I'm no bookie. Group 965, however you gotta find it. We know you like free shit, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to us for free, and you'd be a member of the Patreon, which is scrolling down below. So do the goddamn right thing. Come join over in Tapology if you're not gonna join Patreon. And even if you're gonna join Patreon, come join fucking Tapology. Now, getting that out of the way, let's get into this amount of fucking odds here. And we're going to go the Bet MGM route today. So, in case you're looking at odds elsewhere, know that they may vary. I'm only going to do a quick touch on these because, for the most part, everything's a goddamn coin flip. There's 3 fights that have almost identical odds with just different names and places. So that's what we're gonna do here is we're gonna throw all these together. They're between a minus or plus 200 to a minus or plus 360. All right. So one of those being Bruno Silva and Hung Seung Park. Bruno Silva plus 200. Park getting the minus 250. Apparently, they think that he's fixed his ground game in that short amount of time. The other one in here going to be Danny Barlow and Jordan Santos. Santos coming in as a plus 240. Barlow a minus 300. Seems obvious there. Another one of these here. Ravina Oliveira and Stephanie Luciano. Luciano coming in as a minus 300 favorite. Ravina Oliveira a plus 240 underdog. I mean, somebody's at home, somebody's not. We get it. Moving on with life. And then Azmat Bekaev, I'm probably martyring that, and here I see Belagori. Belagori is sitting as a plus 240 underdog. Bekaev sitting as a minus 300 favorite. Now, the widest odds on the card here go to the honor of Drew Dober and Kyle Prepelek. Kyle coming in as a plus 360 underdog, Drew Dober a minus 500 favorite. That's the widest odds on the card there. So take that with a grain of salt. Everything else, like I said, is a coin flip-ish. And just so everybody realizes that I'm telling the truth, we're going to cover the co-main and main just as usual. Kevin Holland, Mike Malott. Minus 105, minus 115. Kevin Holland's the minus 105, Mike Malott's the minus 115. To be honest, I think they've got the odds a little wrong there. I think they should have Malott favored a little bit more at home, considering what we've seen him do at home. But to be honest, that's a good coin flip in my opinion. What's really fucking crazy here is the odds on the main event is Brendan Allen and Renner DeRitter. Renner DeRitter is only a minus 220 favorite over a plus 180 in Brendan Allen. I think that should be a little bit wider than that. I think they're giving Brendan Allen a little too much credit. But, that's up to you to make up your mind whether you choose to bet on any of these this week. Best bet to make money this week is going to be via parlays. That means making more than one fucking pick, and they all have to be right. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks, and they all have to be right. I mean, yeah, that's a tall task, but I mean, you see what we do in the no bookie group, so it's very well a possibility that you can pull that off. With all that being said, that's all I've got for this fucking week. Love, peace, chicken grease. I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm out of here, legitimately. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much, sir. Always appreciated. Yeah, Golf T's got to run. He's literally right up against the clock there. But that being said, obviously, that is all we have got for this particular episode. We try and do the show pretty much every Thursday when there are fights to talk about. We do the show, if we can, around 9 p.m. ish Central Standard Time. YouTube.com/@I'mNoJoe. Also dual streamed live to twitch.tv/I'mNoJoe. If you can't catch us live, I do leave the replays up on both platforms. If you can't catch us live on purpose and you don't want to watch the replay, I understand. I also own a mirror. For that reason, the week after we go live, I put the all audio version of the show up over on anchor.fm/I'm No Joe. You can pick it up there if your podcast consumption platform of choice for free, just the same. Google, Apple, Spotify, whatever, it's all there. It's all free, just the same for you to pick up. If you like what we do around here, please make sure you're subscribed and your notifications are turned on so you don't miss one of these episodes. Give us a thumbs up if you really like it. Tell a friend. It helps us grow the goddamn thing. If you really like what we get up to around here, patreon.com/I'm No Joe. For as little as $1 a month, as much as you are comfortable giving, you literally help us do what we do around here. And in exchange for helping us do what we do around here, first and foremost, we put your name at the end of every broadcast on this channel to let everyone know how fucking awesome you are. More than that, we give you exclusive patrons at any tier level, unrestricted access to the behind the scenes, unaired, and unairable content, all the things that got us kicked off of OnlyFans. Not to mention, we are now doing Patreon exclusive shows going up once a month. We are also doing Patreon exclusive content that we have got, I believe, 2 things shot of now, getting ready to start going up beginning of next month as well. So there is Patreon exclusive content. There are Patreon exclusive live streams going on as well, just to show you guys how much we appreciate you guys that do go that extra mile for us. We're trying to go the extra mile for you as well. That being said, when we wrap things up around here Thursday night, that is not the end of the fun, because tomorrow and pretty much every Friday, that gentleman and his other half are going to drop their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over there on Spreaker.com. Links to their podcast as well as their socials and their very own channel on the I'm No Joe Discord server. All links down below in the description. Whether you're listening or watching this, either way, go click on the links and tell them how good they're doing.
Appreciate you, brother. The fun never fucking stops there. You gotta follow the brothers, both of them, Golf T Vapes. Follow everything he does. All of his links should be down in the description. And then everything Meter does, he does do many things. You got to make sure you follow everything he does as well. It should all be in the description. You go to Linktree. I always forget this. I'm really stoned and tired. Damn.
It's Linktree/I'm No Joe and Linktree/Meter Does Many Things.
Yeah, there you go. You got to make sure you check out everything that the Meter fucking does. Of course, like you mentioned, we stream every Thursday night, both on fucking Twitch and YouTube now. So check that shit out. Appreciate the support, everybody.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, links down in the description, whether you're watching or listening to this. If you are into that sort of thing, you definitely want to check out the Meter Does Many Things channel. Drop some new content over there just yesterday for the party that we had over the weekend. There is some new content coming up very shortly. There's content constantly coming out over on that side of the thing. So if that's your cup of tea, make sure you click that link. If you are just here for the punchy kickies, we love you just the same. There are plenty of links. There are plenty of episodes. There's plenty back in the archives to go back and watch until we find you folks again next weekend. And don't forget, every weekend when there are combat sports, if you don't get a chance to see all the fights yourself, don't worry. Keep your eyes peeled on the I'm No Joe's YouTube channel on that little shorts tab. Every fight finish worth talking about, I will give you at the very least a little picture and a description of what the fuck happened, depending on how litigious and copyright happy the company the fight goes on for. I may even be able to show you a video of the actual finish itself, but we try and give you all the coverage that we can give you over here for all the fights that are worth knowing about. That being said, though, that is all we have got for this particular episode. So if you enjoy what we get up to around here, please make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend, all the good things. If you can support, we appreciate you. If you're new, I appreciate you even more. If you're old, I appreciate you even fucking more. But on the other side of that coin, if you don't like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast you didn't enjoy? Give it a thumbs down and then go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That being said, that is all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, boys and girls, remember, don't let ignorance stop you you can root for anything.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times.